Hey everyone, I'm sure that you are all eager to start the new season level up. So today I'm going to be breaking down VEX IQ Game Manual version 0.1 and any easy to miss rules. There is also a very small rule change that might lead to a complete shift in the meta, so make sure to stick around till the end of the video. So things are definitely going to change by your first competition, and the Q&A also opens on May 14th, so some weird stuff will probably be clarified soon. Alright, first off, I want to take a look at the field. So there are red goals, there's blue goals, there's two L4 goals, and there are blue, red, and yellow beanbags on the field. The red beanbags actually start off on the blue side of the field, and the blue beanbags start off on the red side. So most of the beanbags will have to travel all the way across the field just to be scored on their goal. So clearly this is the same idea as mix and match, but much more amplified. And also robots can only carry one beanbag at a time. So clearly the GDC wants teamwork and routing to be a really big part of this game. And you can also see these barriers here. And if we go ahead and look at the appendix, the barrier is about 6.25 inches tall, which is only around 12 holes. So your robot will have to be very short to be able to pass through this shortcut over here. And of course, your robot can be tall, but you'll need to go through a very long path just to get to your goal. And not only that, there is a slope to pass through this shortcut, as you can see here, and it's only one-sided, which means that getting over it will be easy, but getting back might be a bit harder. All right, now let's talk about the very important part of this video, which is scoring. So each beanbag scored in a floor goal is worth 1 point. Each beanbag scored in an L1 goal is worth 3 points. Each beanbag scored in an L2 goal is worth 6 points. Each beanbag scored in an L3 goal is worth 12 points. And finally, each beanbag scored in an L4 goal is worth 16 points. So we can clearly see a huge jump from L2 to L3. That's double the point value, but there's not actually that big of a jump from L3 to L4. This is only 4 points, not even close to double. All right, before we continue, whenever I say matching color, it means either the beanbag color is the same as the goal's color or it's a yellow beanbag. So yellow bags count for any normal goal. So for the floor goal, it's only counted as scored if the beanbag is a matching color, it's not touching a robot, and it is fully inside the floor goals. It cannot be touching the beam that marks the floor goal at all. Cannot be over it, it cannot be on top of it. It has to be fully inside. So here we can see that the red one is touching the beam, so it's not counted. The blue one, the color doesn't match, so that's not counted. But the yellow one, it's fully inside and it's a matching color, so it does count. Now for the pyramid goals to be scored, it's a bit different. Still, it can't touch the robot, it has to be a matching color, and it also has to be touching the plastic sheet of the level that it's trying to score on. Or it can be supported by another beanbag that is in contact with that plastic sheet. It's basically a transitive property. As we can see here, let's take this yellow beanbag for an example. So technically it's scored on both L2 from the transitive property and L3 because it's touching the plastic sheet. However, because we always take the lower tier, it's going to be counted for L2. So for the L4 goal, it must be a yellow beanbag. Blue and red beanbags do not score on the L4 goal. It also can't be touching a robot, obviously, and it has to be touching the plastic sheet or being supported by another beanbag touching the sheet. So the transitive property also applies here. Next up, I'm going to be talking about starting positions. All right, so the red team or team 1 will be placed in their starting position that shares a wall with the blue pyramid goal. So if you're a red team, you'll be starting over here. And if you're a blue team, you'll be starting over here, sharing a wall with the red goal. So just remember that they are flipped, but this is different in skills, which we will be covering later. The starting size is very similar to last year. It's 11 inches wide, 20 inches long, and 15 inches high. All right, so for this year, horizontal expansion is an 11-inch by 24-inch horizontal footprint. So as long as you never break that 11 by 24 box, you're okay. Vertical expansion, as always, is unlimited. Now, SG4 has a tiny rule change from last year that many people will miss upon their first read. So this year, beanbags that fall out of the field during a match will not be returned to the field and cannot be reintroduced by the loaders. In mix and match, you could reintroduce game objects that went out, but this year they are just rendered completely useless. And this is important because the goals, they don't actually have a blocker, so it's really easy for them to fall off. And the next important rule is the SG6, which is possession is limited to 1 beanbag. And this is not just possession, it's possession and plowing. So I mentioned this near the start of the video. Your robot can't be carrying 1 bag and while plowing 1 at the same time. So this rule is going to matter a lot because, again, the bags and its matching goal are on opposite sides of the field. So for preload rules, it's basically the same as last year. 1 per team. It has to be touching exactly 1 robot. It can't touch field elements or goals or other scoring objects, except this year it is a yellow beanbag. Compared to mix and match, it was a colored pin. So you get a neutral beanbag for your preload. All right, next up, the load zone. So the load zone is pretty much the exact same as mix and match. You can put the beanbag in the corresponding load zone, and it has to be touching the floor, and the robot can't be touching it while the beanbag is being touched. If a beanbag is introduced improperly, it must be retrieved by the loader and reintroduced, and this is going to happen once the head referee tells you to do so. All right, now for skills. So you play as the red team. You get 4 blue loads, you get 4 red loads, and your preload stays yellow. However, in skills, we do start from the top. So we start on the same side as the red triangle goal, and that is different from the match. So just remember that it's opposite from match play. You're going to start on the red side, even though you're playing as the red team. So the scoring for skills is basically the exact same, but loading is slightly different. So the blue load zone is not going to be used at all, and any driver who is not currently driving can also be a loader. So let's say you're not driving, you can load in this part. All right, so there are some general game rule changes. These are the GG rules. So almost every rule has some small slight change, but I'll be covering 2 major changes from last year. GG2, this is used to decide the no-show stuff. Basically, in mix and match manual, GG2 used to have something that says like you must report to the field for the entire duration of the match. But in the new manual, basically says that the robot must be in the driver's station or on the field for the team's assigned match, even if the robot is not functional. And if your robot is not on the field for the entire duration of the match, the team will be considered a no-show and you get 0 points, which is very bad. Last but not least, we have the robot rules. So these actually hold one of the biggest and most impactful changes, even though this section does seem really boring. So I'm going to skip over these. Of course, you should still read them. Basically, what the new rule change says is that food-safe lubricants are now allowed as long as you are using them in moderation, which means that you can't use too much, and they cannot contaminate the field, the other robots, field elements, and or scoring objects. So basically, don't use too much and don't make a mess. However, of course, there is a catch. We can see that in R17, which is also part of the robot rules, it says that examples of illegal modification include blah, 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 lubricating. So we actually don't know if lubricating is legal or illegal. Here in R14, it does clearly say that lubricants are legal, but there's another thing in the game manual that says lubricants are not allowed. It says here, illegal parts, grease, oil, graphite, or other lubricants or plastic additives. So right now, the game manual is just contradicting itself. I don't know what it's saying, but again, we'll know the answer during the next rule update or when the Q&A opens. So I don't know if this clause is just a typo. It might be accidentally copied from the V5 manual. I don't know. But anyways, guys, I hope that is everything at least. If you guys noticed that I left anything out, make sure to drop a comment. And again, if you guys get this video to 100 likes, I will be doing a full game analysis and robot idea video. So see you guys next time.